For years now, we've been hearing about this huge revolution in transportation. First, we got Ubers and Lyfts, which basically put a car service right in our pockets. And now it feels like the next great leap is finally here, autonomous vehicles. But what is that future actually going to look like in, say, the next couple of years? I mean, come on. We've all wondered about this, right? Who hasn't been stuck in a soul-crushing traffic jam and just wished that super smart robot cars could swoop in and solve it all? But is that even the right question to be asking? Well, according to the source material we're digging into today, the real story of AVs isn't going to be about some crazy acceleration into a sci-fi future. Nope, it's actually going to be about all the messy, real-world stuff that slows things down. We're talking about physics, labor, geopolitics, public policy. In a word, it's about friction. So that's what we're going to break down. We'll kick things off by looking at the hype versus what's probably going to be a much more boring reality. Then we'll see how AVs actually fit into our cities. After that, we'll dive into the business of going driverless. And finally, we'll tackle what might be the biggest obstacle of them all: us. All right, let's get into our first big topic, separating that hype from the friction. We have all seen the movies where robot cars just completely transform the world overnight. But the reality? It's shaping up to be way less spectacular. In fact, it's probably going to be surprisingly quiet. And that leads us right to this core idea. The most revolutionary thing about autonomous vehicles might be how boring and invisible they're going to become. The argument here is that the real AV revolution won't be some big, flashy event, but something so subtle we might not even notice it's happening. It's so easy to think in these huge extremes, isn't it? Either AVs are going to create this transportation paradise, or it's going to be some kind of dystopian nightmare. But the reality is probably something much more mundane. It'll be a slow, kind of boring safety feature that just gets layered on top of the messy system we already have. Okay, now this idea of soft automation is really the key. Think about it. When's the last time you thought about how an elevator works or a traffic signal? They're these incredibly complex systems that just work. They're invisible, they're boring, and that's the goal for AVs. The most successful ones will be the ones we stop noticing altogether. If an AV seems spectacular, it's probably failed. And let's just get this out of the way right now, because it is a huge misconception. Believing AVs will solve traffic jams is what our source calls a category error. They're a tool for safety and logistics. They are not a substitute for good city planning or governance. They just can't make tough political decisions about land use disappear. So if they aren't some silver bullet for traffic, then how do AVs actually fit into our cities? That's what we're going to explore next. And this, right here, illustrates what could be their most powerful role. Instead of killing public transit, AVs could actually make it way better. They're perfect for solving that classic first mile, last mile problem. Getting you from your front door to the train station, and then from the station to your final destination. They make the entire network more useful. But here's the catch. The real job for cities isn't just about making room for robots. It's about continuing the hard work of building infrastructure for humans. The big danger is that cities will use AVs as a convenient excuse to delay the tough political calls they already need to make, like adding bus lanes, building bike networks, or creating slow streets. Okay, let's switch gears. We've talked city planning, now let's talk business. Because the real challenge is moving this technology from lines of code on a screen to actual steel on the road, supported by massive global supply chains. Just look at that number, 1 million. That is the kind of scale you need to run a profitable robotaxi business. But right now, production is in the low thousands. That gap isn't just big, it's a chasm. The problem is no longer just about software. It's a massive industrial and manufacturing challenge. And success isn't going to be about who has the coolest demo video. It's going to be about who can master what the source calls the dirty jobs. This is the totally unglamorous operational side of things. We're talking charging logistics, cleaning the cars, towing, maintenance, emergency response. The companies that figure this stuff out are the ones that are going to win. This new industrial reality is forcing a huge shift in the business model. The old idea that every AV company would have its own app to hail a ride, that's kind of falling apart. The new model that's emerging is B2B, business to business. The self-driving tech companies become suppliers to bigger platforms like Uber and Lyft. It's all about partnerships and something called co-opetition, where competitors actually cooperate to grow the whole market. Which brings us to our final, and maybe the toughest, barrier of all. And it's not about the tech or the business models. It's about our own psychology. We have this funny habit of treating machines like they're people. We give them names, we talk to them, we get mad at them. But when it comes to autonomous vehicles, we do that. And then we demand a level of perfection that we would never expect from another human being. And this chart just lays it out so clearly. We accept a shockingly high rate of human error on our roads. It's just a tragic part of life. But our tolerance for a machine making a mistake, it's practically zero. This means a single, very rare AV crash becomes this massive news story that could lead to huge restrictions, while the constant, daily harm caused by human drivers just remains normal. So when you boil it all down, it comes to this. The future of our streets won't be decided by an algorithm. It's going to be decided by a series of deliberate policy choices that we make. And the real question we have to ask ourselves isn't about the tech. It's about what kind of world we actually want to build with it. Are we designing our cities for technology, or are we designing them for human connection?